Hi everyone, this is Anne Marie, and this is the extended SPY report for the SPY, the IWM, and the Qs for the next couple of trading days. Because of that, I have attached the weekly pivots. You'll see them in orange and a much lighter green. Now, our daily pivots change from day to day. The weekly pivots change from week to week, and so it's a pretty good idea to have a look at what's going on from week to week. And here is a really good look at the fact that we have recovered the pivot. Now let's review. This morning I came in, I said, hey, listen, what's the most likely thing? If we move from one VWAP, we're going to go to the other, then we're going to bounce. Okay, so we know it happened exactly the way that we thought it would. And now what? Well, now what is that we're sitting between S1 and the pivot. If we breach the level, it's going to be a long into the pivot. There's going to be a little bit of noise here. Sellers off of R1, sellers off of the pivot, sellers off of this congestion line. But if we overpower them, we're going to retest the prior high. Now, I'm of the mind that what we should be doing is sort of chopping around sideways a little bit so that we can digest some of these moves. What we're doing is overreacting. It's like this gigantic knee jerk. You know, we see this one big ugly move down, and then all of a sudden people are saying, hey, the market's changed temperament, and da 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 da. It was one day we had a kind of a strong pullback. Haven't seen one like that in a bit. But really, I mean, have we changed temperament? Are we rolling over? Has the top been called? Listen, you could be right. I don't have any evidence showing me that. The evidence that I have says, hey, listen, I've had a nice big run up. Gosh, I have to come back and breathe off some of this support. I mean, some of this overboughtness. And so I'm going to come in and I'm going to chop around here. That's my guess. My guess is that we sit in between here. Tomorrow, probably going to be a ridiculous, nails on a chalkboard day, frankly. That's my thought. Now, there is a thought. Someone said, actually it was Dennis, he said, hey, I wonder how many people are going to go long into the weekend with this kind of formation. My thought is because performance anxiety with guys who manage a lot of money that are not involved, believing the market would roll, are probably looking for places to go long, if you ask me. I mean, certainly if I were in those shoes, you betcha I would be looking around going, okay, do you think I could probably get in here a little bit? Let's see, where's my risk? What can I do? All right, I'm going to do that. And so there is a buying element that can be very much the catalyst for continued upside move. The best thing for the market right now is to move sideways. I know we hate that as traders, especially we day trade. We hate that, but the market needs that. It needs to flatten itself out. My thought is if it sits between the weekly and the monthly VWAPs right here, if it just ping-pongs a little, now you can have a pretty good trade, right? You can trade to the top, it could fade, you could trade back to the pivot, the weekly pivot point. Anything like that, overall I think it's going to be messy. Now, it's also a big holiday weekend, and this is the last space that is sort of spring before we just move right into summer, and people are really having a good time with this coming up, this long weekend. So volume will be light. Now, when volume is light, small caps tend to run. I don't really know why. I haven't thought about the psychology of that, but it is the case. So if you've got your favorite small caps, put them on there, see how they look. If they look good, then hey, that's great. If they don't look good, don't mess with them. But definitely that's an opportunity for you. But the broad market, I think it's going to be pretty choppy. Note the levels. Break above the pivot of 166.88. We're going to have a little trouble all the way up to 167.18 to 167.30. But if we get up and over that region, we should accelerate into new highs. If we lose support level 1, or we fall below the pivot here, I would say below support level 1 because we don't really know where the buyers are lurking here. So let it lose the level, keep the tight stop action here at the pivot, walk it down into this space. All right, now this is pretty straightforward directional information. If you are having trouble understanding specifically what I mean by this, it really is it's a realization that your skill level is extremely limited. And so your goal is to build on that. How you choose to do it is totally up to you. These are just extremely straightforward concepts. And if you have a little difficulty there, it does mean that you need to improve on your knowledge base. All right? And you need to improve on just understanding market action. But you know what? I was there. Everybody that learns to trade was there. And so it's just a space where you have to go, these are my deficiencies, I'm going to try and fill them in. All right? And watching these videos all the time will actually help you. I believe. I mean, hundreds of people have sent me emails that have said, hey, listen, this really helps me. So we lose 163.75. We're going to go into here. This seems like a pretty likely space. Why? S2 on the day is there. S1 on the week is there. There's relative congestion. A lot of things suggesting that if it pops up into the pivot and loses the level, it is going to come back here. Could be a potential ABCD pattern, in which case, if it's AB equals CD, 163.94 to 169, holy smokes, that's a lot. 4.5 points. If it goes from here, that'll take us down to 162-ish. Right down here. Bottom of the base. Right there. Yes, indeed. All right, we'll see, right? My hope, as luck would have it, most of the times that I leave the market, it just jumps sideways, which is awesome. But seriously, the market needs this. It needs to take a breath. It just needs to digest these moves, figure out where it's going. All right, let's take a look at the IWM. Got the same kind of thing going. These were the levels that I had this morning. Some of them. I had another one sitting here, but I have cleaned it up a little bit so as not to have too much clutter as we move into the next couple of days. And so what do we see? Look again. I had this level sitting right here. Why? Because of this. And it came right into it. This is also support level 1 on the weeklies. Held it. Now closing just over the weekly pivot. If it holds the weekly pivot, it's probably going to go to the prior day's pivot, which is the one that we see right here. We do have this region of congestion that's just under it, 98.43. So what's the trade essentially here? We are also in between the monthly and the weekly VWAPs right here. Halfway through the space should mean that we come up into this area. But again, sellers are going to be trying to sell from the weekly side down, and the buyers will try to move up. Remember, the rule of thumb is the following. If I approach a moving average from beneath, I will short at the failed test of the moving average. Sometimes I'm going to short at the moving average if I have the right formation. And if I am approaching a moving average from above, I am going to take the bounce long. Or I'm going to wait for the confirmation candle that pushes it up in that direction. If we are caught between the moving averages like this, just ugly, okay? Necessary, we need it. We really, really do need it. But if it pops up to the pivot and fails, that is a shorting event. No doubt about it. Where could it short to? at least back into this pivot, right? So we're looking at about 70, 80 cents, something like that. That's a ton of cash for the IWM. So watch it come into this level, take some profit at 97.82. If it loses the level, stair step it down. Listen to me. Patience will make you money, provided you are sitting in a formation that is behaving. That's all there is to it. Allow your formation to behave before you get in it, and stay away from it if it is misbehaving. What is a misbehaving formation? Something that is super choppy, moving sideways, has no form, has no function, is not looking like it's got any continuing pattern, but hey, you're thinking, I gotta go long because look at this candlestick, or I gotta go short because the market's overextended, or whatever, right? Don't do it. If it loses 96.45, it's got more downside momentum. Yeah, into this level, I have to wonder where the buyers are here. Did they move up in this case and they're sitting right there? If they moved up with these candlesticks and they test the pivot and roll over, they are not going to be down here again. They're not. I don't like premature bounces off of the VWAPs. I believe that they go ahead and come in and kiss them. It's just very, very, very likely. Okay? So I don't like that premature event. Now, the SPY did it have a premature? No, it didn't. See, this one, perfectly fine, got no worries. This one, premature. Absolutely premature, but you know the IWM formed much better than SPY overall because at the end of the day, the IWM was green, very nicely green actually, Joe, over the top, and the ES was not. Okay, so that's it for that. We've got the IWM sitting there. These are the weeklies again. You want to watch them. They are not going to change, but the dailies will. And so what you want to see is it going to hold a prior day's pivot, which is this number? Is it going to come in and reject it, or is it going to come into this congestion event right here and not even get to the pivot? What's this congestion event? I think I mentioned it. 98.46. Sorry. Okay. And there you have it. So now let's go to the Qs. All right, so now what have we got? Again, you know, technical indicators underneath. I haven't been talking about them much because I really do want us to focus on price, but these technical indicators, they are coming down, but they're all coming down into the neutral zone. All right? And as a matter of fact, some of them have had such high readings that, you know, they're still amazingly overbought and in the trending zone. You know, I hate the term overbought. I use it because everybody else uses it, but overbought does not actually mean overbought. It just means trending in an upside space. So let's take a look at this. What did we do? This level here, that was yesterday's. Right? We had that wick holding right there. We came in to the morning, broke under the VWAP, quickly recovered it, came back and retested the level, popped up to the pivot, and then settled back down under the weekly pivot. This is the first chart to sit under the weekly pivot. SPY above the pivot. Under the daily pivot, but above the weekly pivot. IWM above the weekly pivot. Qs, not so much. All right, so if we recover the pivot here, we're going to pop to the daily, the prior day's pivot, which is 74.03. But again, we're caught between the weekly and the monthly VWAPs. Going to be that ping pong event until it clears the level. Do yourself a favor. If you want to stay out of a ping pong event and you want to get yourself in a trending trade, wait until it loses the top or the bottom. Wait until it breaches the VWAP on the weekly or it breaks the VWAP on the monthly. All right, you look for a closing candle there and you can stair step it all the way down. Listen, wow, what did I just do there? This area right here is the gap event. If it fails, it's going to come down into this area eventually. All right, and so we've got to prepare for that. What do I hope? Again, I hope it's a sideways action event because we have got to take a breath. Here's what these technical indicators are going to do in the sideways action. If we continue to move sideways, these guys are going to start drifting to the south. The DPO is going to sit around 0, but the SMIs are going to start drifting to the south. If they drift to the south and price action stays sideways, that means that the trend has been broken by time and not price. When a trend breaks by time and not price, it means it's holding support levels. As long as a chart holds support, it is not a short. Yeah, that seems super common sense, but a lot of us just take that mouse and click, and all of a sudden we're sitting in something because of some kind of cognitive bias event. So my hope is that we move sideways a little bit, this pulls down a little bit, people get a little bit more enthusiastic about getting involved because we're holding the support, and then we're off to the races again. All right? Now, it could be that this thing's going to break down. The second it breaks down, we know where we're going, right? That's the magic of preparing for both sides of the trade and eliminating cognitive bias that says I should fail here, and so I'm going to position myself like I am going to fail. All right? Now, that doesn't mean that I don't do things like that, but I certainly wait for more evidence than one day that looked kind of yucky, right? I mean, we could, look at this move. We could pull all the way back down to S4 and still be in an uptrend. Seriously, we could pull all the way down to 70 down here and still be in an uptrend. So there's a lot of room for pullback. All we're going to do is wait for the breaks and trade the levels. That's it. Good luck tomorrow. Good luck on Tuesday. I'll see you on Wednesday.